We're almost. And a hush falls over the crowd. We have, yes. We do. Andy walked in, we had a quorum instantly. Okay. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Village of Riverwoods Board of Trustees. Will you please stand with me and say the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call, please.
Here. Here.
Absent today. Trustee Jimison absent today.
Here. Thank you. Next order of business is the approval of minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting for January 2, 2024. Do I have a motion, please? Okay. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes as they stand?
None other than I thought they were exceptionally well written.
Thanks. Inside joke, I did the minutes. Okay, is there, okay, hearing none other than a very nice nod from Trustee Clayton. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Next item of business is the approval of bills. Do I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments on the bills? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Dickens.
Aye.
Motion passes. Treasurer's report. We have our treasurer with us this evening. Treasurer Broseth, will you please? You're going to need a microphone so that it can be recorded. Thank you very much.
Actually, interest rates are pretty static right now, not a big change. Dipped down a little bit from their highs when everything was. I think we're still situated in a really good position. Quite a bit though coming this year. Right now, we have ballpark-ish with the cash. About 11 million. Total interest rate that we're getting. That's some older security investments that we bought in 2020. We'll have almost 75 million. The last rate that was quoted. At that point in time, right now, we have about 31% invested in the treasury. What's maturing is the CDs. About as far out as we go, typically. The quality is all, you know, we have, we talked earlier a little bit operating accounts too. Because we had over into the operating account, or we had any sizable balances in the have predicted cash flow is about $300,000 to $400,000.
Are there any questions for our treasurer? Thank you. Good to see you. Thanks for coming out. Next report is from our Director of Community Services, Director Witt, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. So this is more of a public service announcement than an actual report. I just wanted to let everyone know that January is the National Radon Action Month. Radon is a radioactive gas that is a result of the breakdown of uranium in the Earth's crust. Working with radon systems is important with the building department and therefore part of this report. Radon is the #1 cause of cancer in people that have never smoked. It's the #2 cause of cancer in people that have smoked or have ever smoked even though they've stopped. It causes about 21,000 deaths per year. 1,160 of them are the average in Illinois on an annual basis. It's estimated across the United States that 1 out of 15 homes have an unsafe radon level, which is a level of 4 picocuries per liter. The average in Illinois is about 5.3, if I remember correctly. The ratio, however, changes to 1 in every 2 homes in Illinois. So I urge everybody, if not the month of January, soon, have their home tested. Test kits can be found at local hardware stores, home improvement stores, and you can grab them online. Mitigation systems are required by our building code to be installed in every new dwelling unit, so folks are covered in that way. And they can be installed in existing homes at a cost of only about $1,500 to $1,700, depending on the configuration of the home and how many levels we have to work with. So those that would like to learn a little bit more about radon, its causes, effects, and how to remediate it can go to either the American Lung Cancer or the Illinois Emergency Management Agency websites for more detailed information. That's all I have.
Are there any questions? It sounds like a newsletter item.
That's what I,
Yeah.
just
is that
emailing
what
you
you're
about that,
thinking?
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll forward.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from for our director this evening? Okay, seeing none, move along to the consultant's report. The attorney's report, please.
Everything is in the packet.
Thank you. Our engineer isn't with us tonight. We didn't have anything on the agenda for her, and same with our ecologist. I almost said psychologist. And the next item is the Plan Commission report. Chairman Braykoff, please.
Good evening. I have a very brief report again. The Plan Commission met on January the 4th. We had further discussions on plan unit developments, and we will meet again on February the 1st and probably also discuss plan unit developments. That's it.
Any other questions or comments for our Plan Commission? Okay, seeing none, moving on. Thank you so much. Our Zoning Board of Appeals, I can safely say, did not meet. Police report. Chief, please.
The activity since the first of the year is in the board packet. Additionally, I want to report to the board that all of the FLAC cameras are installed except for one. The one at Duffy and Riverwoods Road has not been installed yet because they ran into a Julie issue. So I guess they have to reschedule Julie to come out and then they can put that camera in. I'm training the officers on the cameras right now, but right after they went in, we had an incident at the end of December where a person was on the highway and realized they were being followed. They got off the expressway, came all the way into Riverwoods, went to their house, which they probably should have gone to the police station, but they went to their house or a police station. And the car pulled into the driveway next to them and then left. So they were worried that the person was going to do a home invasion, or I'm not sure what they were, thought, but it's not usual for somebody to follow you for several miles like that. They didn't get the license plate, but we did use the FLAC cameras and put in the license plate of the caller and saw where they passed our camera at Lake Cook and Saunders. And then we looked at the car behind them, got that license plate, contacted the person, the owner, and found that they were actually on their way home from someplace following another car. They lost the car they were following and thought they found the car, but it was our resident's car that they ended up following. So it was just a misunderstanding, but it solved, it resolved it for us, and the person was at ease. So, but we're setting them up right now. So not only can we check for types of cars and colors of cars that pass our cameras, or anybody else's camera for that matter, we also get alerts on our computers in our cars, and we can also set them up to go to our telephones, telling us when something like a stolen car comes into town, which usually if somebody's coming into town to do a crime like a burglary or some kind of theft, they're very often driving stolen cars. So that would allow us to go look for that car. It sends us a picture in the alert of the car and the license plate. We verify that it's stolen, and then we go look for it, and then we'll either stop the car and arrest the people, or more likely they'll just keep going, and we don't pursue for nonviolent crimes, but at least we'll have chased them out of town. So far so good. So, and that's all I have.
Well, I think that's a great story with a happy ending, frankly. A weird happy ending, but nevertheless, a good ending. Are there any comments or questions for our chief this evening? Thank you very much, and thank you to all your officers, too, for keeping us safe. Fire District, Chief Kruger isn't with us this evening. Information comments from the president. Just wanted to give you a status on the trustee workshop regarding roles and responsibilities. We did have a meeting with TSCA, kind of outlining the kinds of things we were hopeful to cover in that workshop. They're preparing a draft. We're focusing on the first meeting in April for the workshop. That would begin at 6 o'clock. That was the will of the board, I think, at that point, to have the meeting ahead of time, to have the workshop prior to a meeting. So just want to keep you abreast on that. And I think that's probably all I have to let you know about this evening. So we'll move on to new business. First item of new business is approval of an ordinance concerning transportation of asylum seekers. I'm going to ask our village attorney to please lead us through, and I believe Chief Dano will be able to make some comments on that as well.
The information appears on page 27 in the packet. It's entitled An Ordinance Amending the Riverwoods Village Code Regulating Unscheduled Stops. The origin of the ordinance has been done in a number of neighboring municipalities. Started off in the city of Chicago, came about because of the appearance of chartered buses from the state of Texas primarily, I think, with people who crossed the border were seeking asylum, and Texas put them on a bus and or someone put them on a bus, and they ended up coming into the city of Chicago and elsewhere. And oftentimes the bus drivers didn't have any specific directions, didn't know where they were going, and people were let off without really any provision made for them, for housing, for transportation. There is a processing center now that's up and running. Since all of this started, the various emergency management agencies, the City of Chicago, the State of Illinois, Lake County, all have gone into the act and have been providing resources to municipalities. These unscheduled stops, after buses started going to Chicago, and Chicago passed its ordinance, which allowed them to impound a bus that made a stop without sort of pre-clearing it and arranging ahead of time to be met. Then the bus drivers, and maybe there's just so many of them, started going to other municipalities. And I think there was a story in the Tribune a couple of weeks ago of buses coming to train stations primarily. Buffalo Grove, one of our neighbors, passed an ordinance like this recently. I don't know if Deerfield has yet. It was under consideration according to a note from their mayor. And the idea of all of these ordinances is basically to say, if you are not a regularly scheduled bus service, you're not on a schedule, you're not going to stops that everyone expects a bus to stop at, and you basically come into the village, you need to first get approval, make an application, and tell the village you're coming in to unload passengers. And by the way, as all these ordinances do, you should have made arrangements, some plan as to where are they going. And the ordinance provides a number of requirements for an application. It's presented to the police chief. The police chief either reviews and approves it or gives a reason for not approving it. Whether or not someone actually complied with this, the village is, and the chief can speak to this, been reaching out to a number of other agencies to understand what we would do, how we would respond. This may be only a deterrent as an ordinance to really kind of an unscrupulous effort to just let passengers off without, thinking of their welfare at all. The village would still try and do the right thing by anyone who ended up here in the village. But this would really, I think the idea of this is the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus and other groups have been supporting these types of ordinances is to act as a deterrent and hopefully have a better dialogue with the states that are sending buses like this into areas without any prior arrangements. So, Chief, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
So in talking to other agencies in the northern suburbs, the only drop-offs to date have been, I know there was one in Libertyville and there was one in Highland Park, and they've only been dropping off at train stations. So that makes it unlikely that we would get a drop-off. But that doesn't mean that some bus driver isn't going to get lost and decide, I'm just letting them all out here. And that's our concern. So I did call the landing zone in Chicago, and I was assured by the person who I talked to that they take people there 24/7. And I did make arrangements with a couple of local school bus companies, one as a backup, where we could call. I've got several cell numbers for employees of the company, so we can call and they could get a bus out to us, and we could arrange to get people to the landing zone in Chicago via bus. The landing zone also told me that in some cases they'll even send a bus out. They also told me that sometimes they do come with train tickets, and if they are put on a train with their train tickets, there's representatives from the landing zone waiting at Ogilvie, or I forget the other train station in there, waiting in case they do come that way, so they can get them to the landing zone. So we want to discourage people from just dropping them off randomly at Riverwoods and putting the burden on us to have to get them to Chicago. We'd rather they went straight to Chicago and did things properly. So we would like something in place that would deter people from just drivers from randomly just leaving people in Riverwoods where we have no facilities.
We did sit in on a conference call, senior staff and I sat in on a conference call with representatives from a number of Lake County towns and villages. And one of the concerns as expressed by, I think Hawthorne Woods, was not so much having buses go to train stations, but people who were just interested in making money off of driving up and leaving people out and then leaving town. And we've got people who are in the cold and not knowing what to do, is secondary sites. And they're viewing secondary sites as community centers, park districts, houses of worship. And so there's the feeling that among these communities that ordinances such as the one that our attorney has crafted for us would act as a deterrent. And it would also give our officers some pathway to help remedy the situation and take care of folks in the right way and in the proper way. So that's the reasoning behind this ordinance. It is not intended to be unwelcoming. It is intended to be able to take care of people as they show up. We are not, I mean, this is the accommodation right here. So you can see that we're not well suited to care for or to process asylum seekers. So we want to make sure we've got a plan in place and not be in a reactive mode, not know which way to go. Chief stepped out very quickly to get to the officers and make sure that they had, particularly our overnight officers, had numbers to call where they could actually reach a person and that there was a process in place for us to help them. Whether that means hiring a bus or getting a bus from one of these bus companies, having one of our officers accompany them downtown. Certain municipalities will escort the original bus downtown or past their border. So again, we wanted to have a plan in place, a thoughtful plan in place that recognizes the dignity and well-being of the travelers. So toward that end, we have an ordinance that's been crafted, and I would like a reading for a first motion, or motion for a first reading. Almost had it.
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. May I have a motion for a second
Oh,
reading?
you
and
wanted the
adoption?
motion to be a
Oh,
waiver of first reading, not a first reading, but the waive first reading.
I was so close. I was so close.
You want to amend the motion, whoever made that motion?
Yeah, somebody amend the motion, please.
That's
I think it
fine
was
with me.
yours. Yeah, okay. Do you accept the amendment?
Waive first reading. And do you accept that amendment?
Accept that.
Oh, geez. Thank you so much. All in favor of the amended motion?
Aye.
Say aye. All same sign, opposed. Thank you. Do we
Now you're
discuss
looking-
now
now
or
you're-
second? Now
Now
I
you're
want
looking
to.
for a motion for second reading and
Motion for
adoption.
a second reading and adoption, please. I even have notes. But- May I have a motion for a second reading and adoption, please?
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion or comments the trustees wish to make on this subject? Trustee Eastman, please.
I would just say that I think the plan seems reasonably well balanced, given what's been put in place in other municipalities. I do have one slight tweak to the very first part of the ordinance, the 410(1), where we say, and otherwise creates a nuisance and a threat to public safety. I just suggest maybe softening that a bit and changing it to and may potentially create a nuisance and a threat to public safety. Seems a little bit more welcoming. I mean, certainly, it may not be the case, but that makes it a little softer. That's it.
That's your motion to amend the ordinance in that fashion. Is there a second to that motion?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, all
All in favor of the
All in
motion to
favor?
amend?
in favor of the motion to amend?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay,
So now if you want to call the roll on the motion to adopt the ordinance as amended.
Roll call.
you, yeah.
Trustee Clayton?
Aye.
Trustee Deacon?
Aye.
Trustee Eastman?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Motion passes. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. The second item of business is a resolution approving an agreement not to enforce a declaration of covenant and restriction. Our village attorney, please lead us through this one.
I am now, if I can, page 33 of the packet. So we discussed this in the end of at the meeting in December, the last meeting, the restrictive covenant that affects potentially development of the last remaining parcels in the Parkway North development. If you recall, the covenant gave the village of Riverwoods the right to enforce a setback from the center line of Saunders Road. I think it was 300 feet for buildings and 100 feet for parking. The covenant expires in February next year, February of 2025. The developer, and Nick Marietti is here tonight from VinPoint Real Estate, contacted the village and asked if we would consider earlier waiver of the restriction so that he could go through the village of Deerfield with an application for zoning and plan development and all the approvals he needs to construct his townhome development. And in the packet in the end of December, we had a site plan and some other exhibits which depicted the proposed development. The board at that time agreed that it might be reasonable to agree to that request, that we not enforce the restrictive covenant, that we had made some recommendations in the report to the board, that we not just terminate the restrictions, but that we basically agree not to enforce them for a period of time until there was a final plan that had been approved by the village of Deerfield that was consistent with what we had been shown in terms of setback not being higher than what was depicted in the plan. So in the packet, then there's behind the resolution approving the agreement itself says that the village will not enforce its restrictions against this development and will actually execute a full release at the time that the final site plan is approved by the village of Deerfield, and the site plan that's approved is consistent with the restrictions that we saw in the concept site plan that Vin Real Estate showed us. So I don't know, Nick, if you have any, the only thing the agreement does is provide that at the time of the full release, the developer will pay $25,000 to the village as a landscaping payment, which will allow us to offset the cost of providing trees and landscaping on the west side of Saunders Road. This was requested in part by the Thorngate Association because of the play area that's visible from this property. Are you otherwise, I guess I just would like to ask, are you otherwise in agreement with the content of the agreement and have no issue with it?
Yes.
So if the board is inclined to go forward with this, just a motion to approve the resolution approving the agreement not to enforce restrictive covenants, and the mayor will then be authorized to coordinate executing and delivering the agreement to the developer.
Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve.
Okay. Is there a second? Discussion, please. Trustee Clayton.
I'm guessing there's no representative from the village of Deerfield here, and there wasn't at the last meeting. Is this something that Deerfield is requesting us to do, or the developer?
Deerfield contacted me and asked if the village would consider taking action on this, and they've since followed up several times asking, are we acting on this? They understood that we were doing this because their position was the developer should not be able to proceed with an application without our indicating we're willing to waive the relief. Otherwise, they would be acting on something that they felt would be in violation of their agreement with us.
Okay.
Trustee Dickon.
A comment on terms of verbiage, second paragraph, you're missing 2. It says the agreement not enforce restrictions, restrictive covenants, so the agreement not to enforce.
We'll fix
Under
that. Thank
background,
you.
second paragraph.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's in the memo, but in the agreement itself, I hope I don't have the same. I'll check, but.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, with that, being mindful of that possibility of a typographical error.
I'll fix it if there is there.
Okay.
There's another one.
May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Clayton?
Aye.
Trustee Dickon?
Aye.
Trustee Eastman?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next item of business is old business, approval of an ordinance amending the village code concerning registration of certain residential properties. This is a second reading and adoption. Do I have a motion for second reading and adoption?
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
The only thing I would point
Further
out is that
description?
the changes on page 56 of the packet, and it had to do with the penalty section because a number of you observed that there seemed to be a glitch in how we were structuring the penalties.
Is there any discussion or questions about the revisions that have been made?
Well, to clarify, I wanted to make it clear, as the trustees had asked, that each day that the registration wasn't in place could be considered a separate violation. So we give them the opportunity to cure the first violation with a $75 payment, or second violation, but if they don't cure it within notice after the 15-day period, then we could treat each day as a continuing violation. Not saying that we would get that, recognized by a hearing officer, but that's what the ordinance would say.
Further discussion? May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Clayton?
No.
Trustee Dickon?
Nay.
Trustee Eastman?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
It's a tie, so you're allowed to cast a vote.
I vote yes. Okay, the ordinance has been approved. Moving on to visitors wishing to address the board. Well, Hal, you've already spoken. Lori has spoken. Catherine, anything? Russ, anything? Nick, I think, has spoken. I'm sorry, sir, I don't know your name. You're with him? Okay. I think that just about covers it. Thank you for coming. Okay, there's no need to go into executive session, establishing a time and date for the next meeting. Board of Trustees regular meeting on February 6, 2024, right here in Village Hall. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I'll pick one of you, and the other one of you will have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Huh?
Well, it's close. It's not a record, but it's close. I have this
On the website.
one time,
Dana
there was
does.
a storm, some kind of
Dana?
storm, and we sat here, we met